There you go. Hello, hello.
Hello. New home.
uh, yeah, new home indeed. Yeah, going a bit more professional this week. Yeah, actually going live with ThoughtWorks, which is excellent. So yeah. Hello everyone. Hope we've got everyone moving over from the old event. From next week on, this will be a lot smoother. But yeah, for those who don't know, this is This Week in AI. Myself and my colleague Danilo go through some of the most recent news and bits and pieces that we've seen going on. We were having these discussions ourselves in our one-to-one and just over chat, and we thought, hey, why not just share these with other people? And yeah, so that's why this started. We love comments, so if you guys are watching, please put loads of comments in. We'll try and answer them as we go. We've got a packed schedule, so we've got sort of 5 or 6 links we'll share as we go that we've been looking at and that we think are interesting and important for people to get updated. Yeah, we've also got some special guests who are related to sort of some of the stories that we're going to speak around Anthropic being able to deal with COBOL, some of the stuff that we've done with maintenance. Mainframe modernization, that sort of thing. But yeah, for those who don't know, I'm Ben. I'm a principal AI engineer with ThoughtWorks. And Danilo, do you want to introduce yourself for those who don't know?
Yeah, thanks, Ben. Danilo Sato, I'm the VP of AI here at ThoughtWorks, and Ben and I work together. Tons of topics. We'll have our guests joining probably the second half of the discussion, and we had lined up a bunch of things. And as usual, right after we did our last week stream, there was a new big model release. So maybe we should jump in the first topic because that was the main announcement from last Friday, which was Google launching the new Gemini 3.1 Pro model. So I
Absolutely.
don't know, Ben, did you have time to play around much with it or any?
Not a huge amount. Should we let's get it on screen and we can see the announcement, which was like, yeah, again, I don't know why it seems to be like they wait until we go live and then they post it immediately after. Yes. Yeah, great from Dean. Yeah, special guest. The webinar is taken off. I know, right? It's going pro. We need to get Dean on, long time commenter and some very good, insightful comments as well. So yeah, great to see it, and great to see you've been able to navigate here from me putting up the alternate event before us making the official event now. So yeah, great to see you. I've played around a little bit with Gemini. I think again you can see coding going up.
Can you zoom in a bit? It's a bit
Yeah,
small.
sure. There you go. Is that a bit better? No, even
Yeah.
there, I think we could probably go in a bit more. There you
Yes.
go. So interesting. And like, I don't know, sometimes you can tell what they prioritize by the ordering that they put these benchmarks in. So humanities last exam and ARC AGI 2. So these are like a lot more abstract than the sort of terminal bench, SWE-bench verified, SWE-bench pro, etc. But you can kind of see like frontier level here against they've got both. So they're sort of still saying it's oh, hey Wes, thanks for the wave. We'll see if we can get some of these comments on screen. But yeah, you can see here it's clearly these abstract reasoning puzzles that they're going for, which makes sense, right? Like their background from the sort of DeepThink, DeepMind is really around like some of these more abstract problems that are more challenging to solve.
General
But yeah,
purpose problems, yeah, not just specific on coding.
yeah. I mean,
Like
this
they
is
did well in the coding benchmarks as well, right? Compared to even like Sonnet 4.6, like they're just behind Opus 4.6, but at least we bench verified. Most of the frontier models are now kind of on par, and we'll talk a bit more about this later. I had a news item to discuss about the benchmark itself, but yeah, it's good. Good
and again,
progress there.
it's key here. They've all got the thinking high and thinking max and X high on. So like again, this is also like scores that you get with increased compute and lower latency. Just to be clear, rather than the sort of if you don't have these settings, you're not going to get quite as high a response. But yeah, like pretty interesting here, and like again, agentic tool use. I think is one thing where like some of the Google models have maybe not been as strong as Anthropic or OpenAI, and now you can see clearly getting very high usage of tools, which is great. Because yeah, that's where the rubber hits the road for me a lot of the time.
Yes. Very good. I mean, I've used a little bit as well because we've got access within our internal systems. And yeah, I did note. I mean, it's a bit overkill for some of the things I was doing, obviously. But yeah, I did notice a bit of change in the response behavior. It's just the race is going. You know, every other week, it feels like one of the major frontier labs will launch a new version. And obviously, you can see what's going to come next. Like this is the Pro thinking high. Like they're probably going to release the Flash version soon as well, and like all of those like smaller, faster, cheaper model versions that they distill from this. So yeah, it's great.
Yeah, and I'm a big fan of this. This is great. Like, yeah, for me, I think again, it just like really highlights that you really shouldn't be locking yourself into one provider, because it's changing so much, and so frequently. Oh, can we get Dean's comment? There you go. We're seeing lots of minor revision number releases. What do the providers consider justifies minor and major? That's actually a really good question. I don't know whether, maybe Danilo, you've got a bit better insight than I do.
Yeah, there's no methodology. It's more based on, like, they always training the next big version of the model, like bigger, more data, more training time, and like they usually take like checkpoints, I guess, of like some of these models. So it's at their discretion, but usually like if it's not one of these new big model training major version things, they'll probably do an increment, and it's incremental capability versus like, oh, it's the next generation kind of thing. But yeah, I don't think there's like a official rule for when do they call major or just a minor version.
Yeah,
I mean, OpenAI for the longest time, they used to have all the more confusing model names in the world, right? Like you can't even compare.
I mean, I'm 100% like, you only need to look at the naming conventions or lack thereof to see that there's not like a lot of logical reason going on there, maybe, or like at least a lot of cohesion around it. But yeah, for me, I think that I don't know whether there's maybe something around, pre-training versus post-training going on here, where you've got the same base model and you're doing more and more RL on it, and that's why you're making these minor increments. But it's a great question. I don't actually know, and I guess it will also differ lab to lab. So yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, very interesting.
Maybe we should move on. So we've covered some of the topics before we bring our guests as well. In terms of major model, we didn't have much more to cover this week, but there was a lot of topics from Anthropic that came out. One of the things that also had a hit on the stock market for a bunch of the security stocks was they announced this Claude Code security. So it helps with finding and fixing security vulnerability. And yeah, not just identifying, but it's interesting because connected with Claude Code, they could actually patch and fix the vulnerability. It's not the first one I've seen doing this, because I remember like Gemini had a tool like that. I forgot what it was called, but it was to do similar things, like scan code base for security things and like have an agent that could try to help. But they are building that into like Claude Code product, if you will. I mean, security is a hot topic now with all of the news around CloudBot and all of that. So, like from a product roadmap perspective, I think it's an interesting feature. And again, like when they announced Cowork and the plugins, they had a hit on the stock market. They announced this, I think it was Friday, and it was similar. There was a hit on. I don't know how many billions they wiped out of the.
Yeah, it was wild.
Total market cap. Yeah,
you
20.
Literally like all of the all of the different security startups just had massive impacts, and like Yeah, like it makes a lot of sense, right? I think again, it is a little bit turtles all the way down, but it's also like it's great to like, I've been saying this for the AI coding piece. It's like if you have so many more cycles, well, you should be using some of those cycles to harden everything, right? Like you should be like triple checking for things that maybe you could, going through these checklists and sort of saying, right, okay, cool. Now criticize this PR as much as you like, which is what I did for one of the internal PRs that we had.
Yes.
Like again, it's like it's great to have something that you can bounce these ideas off, and like it just makes sense to have this. I'm not even certain, like fundamentally, how much different this is from just Claude Code that's been focused on like with a bit of a front end, right, for the security.
Yeah, they built some. Yeah, I mean, they don't talk about it. This is one thing, I guess, with Anthropic in general, right? Like they don't have any open weight models, or like their stance, especially lately. There's a lot of news about like them removing access to using tokens through the API if you're not using their kind of plans, and so they got a bit of backlash, I guess, recently. So it's a bit opaque, I guess, how they do. But like they talk about like training on this like competitive capture the flag events, which is like security events where teams will compete to try to hack into a system or like break into something.
Yeah.
So it's like benchmarks, probably more geared towards these types of things. And I agree with you. Like, yeah, that's with so much more code being generated by agents. Like, even if we keep humans in the loop for the review, there's likely we're going to miss a bunch of things, and using AI to find that. It's AI for security, I guess, in this case. It's where the bucket's going. So it's good progress.
Yeah, absolutely. For me, I think there's this piece around like AI powered red teaming, all that sort of stuff. It's like, right, well, like, okay, cool. Like if you are going to, zoom out a little bit, and I saw a startup that with some ex-colleagues who are doing this, where they've released the need for human review to merge to production, and again, like it's kind of like chaos engineering here, right, where you're like finding and fleshing out all these issues, and so you're doing all of that work up front, and in an automated fashion. So yeah, like I think this is going to be quite interesting. Like fundamentally, I think it is probably, I don't know how much I've been using proactive agents on my code base, like with the AI language server that I built like 6 months ago or so, which basically just goes and highlights some of these logical errors that I otherwise wouldn't make, and does it proactively rather than reactively, i.e. like I don't have to go to Claude Code and say, find security issues, right? Like you kind of don't want that. You kind of want a continuous scanning, and you kind of want it to be something that like proactively goes and finds these issues. Now, again, major problems that you have with this is what people are experiencing in open sources, and actually even with static application security, is like the volume of false positives. But again, I suppose AI kind of solves that as well, right?
The answer now is more AI.
Yeah. More turtles. Let's go deeper.
Yeah. The just moving on in terms of time as well. The other thing came from Anthropic. They had a briefing on, what was it? Tuesday, I think, 2 days ago, and they released a bunch more co-work plugins for enterprise. Some like more targeted to like financial services, wealth management, like even like private equity kind of skills. Interestingly, like it didn't have the same hit in the market that it had when they announced the first time and when they announced the Claude Code security. But like again, they're adding more connectors and plugins, both like general productivity stuff, but like there's one more targeted. I think if you scroll a little bit more, they'll talk about what these new plugins cover on the bullet list right there. You scroll past.
Sorry, straight past it.
Yeah, but you see like, HR, design, engineering, operations, brand voice, but then get into specific things like financial analysis, investment banking, equity research, private equity, and wealth management.
Yeah.
So getting more and more like domain or vertical use cases that they're building plugins for within Claude Cowork itself. So this aligns with their strategy, I guess, to try to be the AI company for the enterprise, and a lot of the features and the product roadmap has been supporting the emotion from what we see from the outside, at least.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what these actually look like from the code point of view. Like, are they just
you can see? I think there's a GitHub. Like, these are open. Like, it's not.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe it's not easy to find it from here, but there's definitely.
Oh no.
GitHub repo where these are. But like, plugging is a way to bundle skills and like some slash commands and like some maybe sub agents, I think, as well. You can bundle. So it's like things that Claude and Claude Code already supports. Claude Cowork was already like built on top of Claude Code as the agentic loop and all of those same skills. So plugins is a way to bundle this kind of more than just a skill, but like you can add a little bit more things like assets and other things. And yeah.
And I mean, I said we wouldn't talk about OpenClaw anymore, but like, because we talked about it every week. But yeah, like, I think this is pressure from OpenClaw and like ideas from OpenClaw where you're just giving it way more access, more apps, and like, actually like the hard bits being like, moving context from Slack to PowerPoint to Excel or whatever, right? And so like, having the context across those things makes sense from that point of view. This looks really great. That it's got open telemetry logs that you can get. Again, like, this is something that then will start to like make a lot of sense when you've got people using Claude directly at scale from sort of team and enterprise. Kind of wild that you didn't have this before, but yeah, like, this is great in terms of it looks really simple to set up, and then you can start seeing kind of like what's being used, and again, like we talk about like Clio, this like large scale like monitoring and alerting that they do based on like grouping that's like anonymous. So again, you can take this stuff, anonymize it, aggregate it, and understand how people are using AI in your enterprise, and that's going to be something that's really interesting and useful. I had some conversations last week with people around like, right, we need like greater usage of AI, and you're like, right, well, like, do you though? That's not really the goal. Like, it's a little bit more. There you go. It's a little bit more. Actually, the goal is really increased speed, increased like value, right? Like going faster with higher quality and more safety. The goal is not just adoption of AI. So if you can have this sort of view of like, are people getting stuck in loops? Are they actually like going further and faster? Like that's something that's quite useful, I think.
Yeah. I mean, there was the joke before, like when they do these things, like how many startups have they killed with the latest release? But like with Anthropic in this latest month's releases being not just the startups, but like taking a big hit on the big players that already operate in that space. So yeah, this is, I mean, it's only going to continue happening. So we had one more topic on Anthropic that came out this week. They published a report on what they call distillation, identifying distillation attacks, and like how they detected and prevented it. This one was one that was a bit controversial as well in how it's being received. But like what they're claiming here is that they identified like, I don't know, 20-something thousand accounts that were trying to, fraudulent account, they say 24,000. The idea of distillation, which is basically trying to use whatever Claude models answers are for questions, and then use that to train their own models or smaller models that showcase, highlight similar capabilities. So it's a known technique, I guess. Like that's probably how they do for like going, say, Gemini Pro to Gemini Flash, and like from Opus to Sonnets to Haiku. And of course, there'll be more probably like post-training stuff that they do to customize, but like this as a technique is a known thing. But yeah, they're claiming like a lot of the Chinese players have been doing a bunch of these things. And the backlash,
Oh, wow.
I guess, was more because like they had a lawsuit, Anthropic, like last year, where they were sued for using a bunch of torrents, I guess, for like books and things to train their own models, and like they had to settle that, which is always interesting, right? Because
Yeah.
how so it's like what's fair game, I guess, when you're doing that. Whoever has access to data, which data are you using to train your model? So that's one of the controversial takes that I've seen people kind of talking about. And with the other stuff, like we didn't cover directly, but like this thing around like them removing access to use tokens if it's not going through their enterprise plans. So like there's a lot of people that are kind of like Anthropic maybe is not the good player as much as they've been talking about.
Yeah. I mean, it's yeah, again, exactly that. There's a little bit of hypocrisy going on here, but like again, you know, it's self-interest, right? And the same sort of thing propped up with DeepMind. So this is the Google Threat Intelligence Group distillation experiment and continued integration of AI for adversarial use. So like
Interesting.
this diagram I thought was a really useful way of like understanding what's going on here, where it's basically you've got this prompts and response, and you're just turning that into a data set for extraction, and then you're distilling models based on this. So yeah, like I mean, like interestingly, like distilling from Gemini without permissions is a violation of the terms of service. Like, I mean, it'd be interesting. Like for me, I'd be like, as I'd kind of almost recommend like for a AI platform to have this route themselves on Google infrastructure, right? Which probably would be supported by Google, where you'd basically be saying, okay, cool, like we want to train a model on your infrastructure based on our production data, which is our data, right? You know, so it's kind of like it's very weird where the lines are drawn in this sort of thing, but I kind of get it because this is eroding a competitive advantage that has been costly to develop. You know, and yeah, but you are seeing like these models are then often like if we look at these companies, these are then like open sourced. So DeepSeek, I think
open weights, right?
Moonshot with the Kimi ones, and MinMax I think is GLM, right?
No, GLM is ZAI.
Okay. What do they? Which ones do they have? It's M2, is it? Yeah, M2.5. So yeah, I'm not certain if this one is actually open source.
Open weights.
Open weights. Sorry, yeah, not open source. Looks like it might not be. But yeah, I think it's like it's interesting that this stuff's happening and that it's being picked up on and how they do it. And I think this is probably going to be stuff that's going to start to be closed pretty quickly. And yeah, like so how interesting like the different ways in which this is now used. And yeah, some really interesting reading there. I'll post this as well. Cool.
We had like a few topics from OpenAI as well, or I wanted to briefly cover. Like it's not major news or major model releases, but they announced Frontier as like their AI platform for managing the agents that are running inside OpenAI. And then this last week they introduced this Frontier Alliances. So they're starting to launch partnerships with companies that it's interesting because like we're not official partners, but like the premise here makes sense. Like it's not about just using the AI or the model and expect things are going to change. There's a lot more that needs to happen for a company to really adopt AI in terms of the change and like how do we enable our people. So like the transformation stuff is not something that OpenAI is not the core of their business. They're putting their investment to actually build the most capable models and all the guardrails and things around that. But yeah, it makes sense, I guess, to build this as a alliance or partnership network. So it's something that they just announced this week. The other one I picked up from them was from they made a investment in some of the AI alignment. So there's this project called Alignment Project, and they announced like 7.5 million, I think, grant that they're going to make available. This is run by like the AI Security Institute here in the UK. He's one of the UK. It's not a full department, but like they sit under the Department for Science, Innovation, Technology. But they've been doing a lot of research in AI safety, AI security. And this is the one that got created when the UK hosted that first AI summit. Like this was, I don't know, 2 years ago, something like that. So yeah, they've been putting a lot of the UK research around this topic is driven by AISI, and like this is a project that now OpenAI is gonna invest a bit to help. And like they collaborate a lot in terms of like just doing research, but also like evaluations for different types of tasks, right? Like or running. It's not just user research, but like this.
Oh, there's ML stuff as well. Nice. Like probabilistic.
Yeah. There's a lot of different topics that they work on. Benchmarking evaluation is one. That's the one I was thinking about. But yeah, they do investigation and studies on impact of AI in like people and like other things like that. It's interesting.
Mitigate biases, limited. Yeah, this seems really interesting. So yeah, like again, like looks great that they're sort of contributing again. Like, I mean, these scales don't really
number compared to how they're investing in the infrastructure. It's a drop in the ocean.
Yeah. But you know, again, like this sort of grassroots stuff does actually have an impact, and so it's like it's quite interesting. That and good, right? Like, you know, again, I think like more often than not, people will be like, oh, it's not enough. It's like, well, but like some is better than none always, and like this is how it works. Like, you know, actually, if a large number of these projects end up producing promising things, then it will be much easier for them to get more investments in the future, right? So you don't just immediately move all the chips into one area. You sort of invest in this stuff, see if this team can put together like some interesting research projects, see what papers get published from it, see if those get then brought back into the industry and actually implemented, and if they do, then great. And then it makes sense to double down and continue doubling down. So this is great. This is a huge amount of seed money, right? Like for them to be able to do something.
There was one more topic from Anthropic I forgot to put on the list, but this came out this week as well. They made an update to their what do they call responsible scaling policy? ASP. They launched a new version, V3. Some of it is from like that topic we discussed last week with the things that are going on between Anthropic and the Pentagon and like what they're allowed to do. But they updated a bit on this, and I don't know if it's like backing down, but like there's an element of like, oh, there's things that we need to do as like you know, like the whole like governments will have to take action. Like there's actions that are beyond what Anthropic as a lab could do. And they're looking as well a little bit more about like what are the other competitors doing, because like they're acknowledging like we exist in a system where like there's competitors trying to run this race to the top. I think is how Dario used to frame, right? It's everyone trying to train the more better capable model. But like historically they've been more worried about doing that responsibly, and you know, like they've got the constitutional AI approach and all of that stuff. But yeah, they announced a new thing, and like I think in this new version of the policy, they're trying to be more clear about like here's what we are committing as Anthropic that we can do as actions, regardless of what the other players in this field are doing. But these are things that we think needs to be done by government players and, you know, like other labs, and more like a whole of the AI field approach, not just what we do as one of the labs in this.
Yeah, it makes sense. And again, I think this is also good to like being clear the separations of the company and recommendations for the industry. Yeah, it'd be interesting. I've not dug into it in too much detail, but it'd be interesting to see where they diverge and
because the thing we mentioned last week, remember, like when for Opus 4.6, they announced that they were benchmarking against the next level of like, because the safety policy framework, they define the different levels of security, and they kind of upped it because they're like, we're starting to see more capability out of these models, so they're starting to assess risk against that. And yeah, one of the things I think I read is this idea of like the risk reports being part of the process as new models get released, that like making that more of a requirement. But updating the policy itself was like yesterday or like day before. This is a new thing that came out.
Yeah, maybe I'm just ruined, but I kind of just want to see a diff, you know, like
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys saw the you know, there was an update to like Firefox policy, and around like basically it was like, this is a promise, we will never sell your data to any third party. And then there was like a diff that was just like black and white, they were all red and green of just like them deleting that, and it just became like
Oops.
it just really throws it into highlights, like what's actually changed. Like, you know, again, like this is linking back to, so reading the full policies here and then linking back to like these are the updates.
Yeah.
But actually looking through this, like it's not really like hugely clear what actual changes have been made to this. So, you know, like here it is, separating the plans, like the roadmap, so like some example goals, okay, great, and like risk reports. So like again, like okay, cool, that's adding it in. Like, but what part of the actual policy has changed versus like actually it being you know, like just kind of like framework level, like what's the content rather than the structure of the content. This is giving us the structure of the content, but not actually the content that's changed. So
yeah, feels like we need to ask AI to do the diff for us and help us interpret that.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, one more topic before I think our guests are ready to come in soon. This came from OpenAI as well, but it was an interesting, there was a podcast interview with some of them at the Latent Space podcast. I don't know if people follow that. That's a good, very good podcast. Talking about this, like how SweBench Verified was something that OpenAI initially put together as a better way for benchmarking the models against software engineering, right, like coding tasks. And that's been kind of the standard, I guess, that all the models have been measured against. But what they're seeing is that almost like getting to this saturation now, where like the benchmark itself is not like the discussion was like, oh, it's almost like now it's like 0.1% difference, and like we're trying to hit the max that the model will do, and like some of the things where the model is not able to succeed, it might be an issue with the benchmark as well, like how the task is being assessed is too specific. So like if the model creates another implementation that maybe has a different name of the parameter that's just valid, it solves the problem, but like the benchmark might fail because it's expecting a specific way of the implementation. And not only that, they're starting to see this idea of like contamination, right? Because a lot of the training, like once we know this is the benchmark we're going against, you can actually put more information in your training set about like these are the types of things that we want to solve. And this article talks a little bit about this kind of saturation contamination issue with SweBench Verify. And the new one, I guess, and Gemini 3.1, you saw in the announcement, they already started measuring against, is the SweBench Pro, I think, is the new one. It's a Scale AI initiative where, you know, the models are below the 40% still against the new benchmark. So I think that's probably going to be a shift over, like as these new frontier models for coding get released, we're going to start seeing them all kind of top out at this SweBench Verify specifically, and we're going to start measuring against another eval benchmark for coding.
Yeah, so there you go. So
yeah,
it's like fewer contamination issues, and yeah, I mean, like it's interesting. I don't know, like part of me is just like we were talking about this. I think we should have our own like kind of internal benchmark as well. It'd be super interesting to see if we could do that from like the accelerators that we build in-house and see whether we'd like agree with those. But again, it's challenging to build and maintain these things and costly to run them. So you know, again, it's kind of like it's nice that there's these bits out there, but yeah, I think we'll just continue to see this versioning. And yeah, really, like it's the same as when you're doing any ML project, right? You need a train and a test split, and to see that you're actually like generalizing to unseen data, and this is just that problem manifesting itself where you know Swebench like original has been in the training data set for years now, so yeah, cool. All right, well, so yeah, I suppose this is part of the so the reason that we've got our guests. So oh, by the way, I've completely forgotten about all the comments, so I've seen some of them, which is great. But yeah, I think we can bring in our colleagues and talk about the sort of, hey, there you go.
Hello.
How you going?
Can you hear us?
Yeah, I can. Can you hear us?
Awesome. Yeah. So we've got our first guest in the show. I'll let them introduce themselves, but like, yeah, there was a specific topic we wanted to talk to you because you guys have been looking at this way more than Ben and I for ThoughtWorks for a few years now. But yeah, maybe I'll start with Sheldon. Do you want to give a brief introduction?
Yeah, sure. I'm Sheldon. I'm based out of London. Oh, actually, we're all based out of London, right? Yeah, I've been in ThoughtWorks for a while now, mostly played technologist roles. And then for the last couple of years, I've been leading our modernization services, which also means looking at all the tooling that's available and building when there is not. Great to meet you all and discuss.
Thanks for joining. And we got Alessia that works with you as well. Alessia.
Hi, everyone. It's always nice to be after Sheldon because basically I can say +1 to everything that Sheldon said, and that's my introduction. I'm Alessia. I'm based in London as well. I'm a lead in the enterprise platform modernization team, working a lot on mainframe modernization. I guess that's why it brings us here today.
Yes. So the piece of news you probably saw, Anthropic made a post about using Cloud Code to deal with COBOL legacy, COBOL code bases, I guess.
Which one? No, I've not come across this at all. It had no impact.
So hot off the press, yeah, it was posted this week to the tune of like, I think IBM got like a 13% hit on their stock price when that came out. And like Anthropic has been doing that. We were talking just before you guys joined about some of the other announcements on the CoWork plugins, and like they've been slashing market cap from all the different companies. And like, yeah, this week the COBOL mainframe was the victim of the day. But yeah, we were interested to get your take on like, did they say anything new from what you guys have been doing? Like, was it similar space, or like have you used some of the stuff that they are talking about? Like, I don't know if you how much in depth we need to go on this, but yeah, we were very keen to get your thoughts on what they said and how we perceive what's happening in that space.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, we feel that we have been seeing this space move positively for.
Oh, I can't hear Sheldon.
You can't?
Oh no, I've got you.
Okay.
It's just me. Go ahead.
Cool. So yeah, I think we've been seeing the impact of generative AI on the space for a few years right now. I think we published an article on modernfollow.com. I want to say in late 2024, but unless you'll correct me if I'm wrong about that. And so I think is it a new idea? No, I think there's been a lot of publications about the impact of generative AI on legacy modernization in general, even including specifically mainframes and COBOLs. I guess it's a testament to the Anthropic brand for them to make such market-moving impact with sort of this news. And I would say the impact has been increasing in terms of what you could do with generative AI, given the quality of outputs that models produce. And we've seen that improvement. But I would also balance that with the reason mainframe modernization is so hard is it's not just about the language, right? It is one part of the problem, and mainframes are sort of very complicated systems, and they've sort of held their ground for a very long time. And so there are lots of other dimensions to solve. So it's great that this one dimension is becoming easier, but that doesn't mean that those other dimensions go away. I guess that would be my summary. Alessio?
Yeah, I guess there's first of all, there's a lot of points that they make in the article, and I think I agree with all of them. Like Shodan said, there's very, very good points about incremental modernization, about it's not just, it's not just about code, but it's about bringing expertise also in terms of understanding business priorities and technical priorities. And, it's almost an art understanding how to tackle modernization incrementally in such a way that it builds momentum within the organization and it keeps us going. But one thing that I struggle to really get at the beginning of the blog, the article, is when they say that COBOL is taught to very few people, and finding people that can read COBOL shrinks every year, which just makes me. I'm curious about this statement because COBOL itself was designed to be readable by non-technical people. So actually, when I know how to read COBOL, I have no idea how to develop COBOL, but I can read COBOL and I can understand it, right? So the problem is not so much reading COBOL, it's just the sheer amount of information that we get when we access the code, right? It's millions of lines of code that we can't process with our brain, right? So that's exactly where AI helps a lot, because it helps us. It has a really big context window, which is probably bigger than what we can feed in our brain just by reading code, right? And it can summarize that information to us. So it empowers us to do those better decisions to plan what that modernization looks like. So there's a lot of benefit there. Then there's a lot of benefit in the code generation, right? It's what we're seeing with this is just code is becoming cheaper to generate. And it's just showing how much modernization is about other things as well.
Yeah, and I suppose that's not really like a COBOL issue at all, right? Like you said, it's actually, it's not even an AI coding issue. It's any sufficiently large code base or a distributed set of microservices. Suddenly you have complexity there that you can't contain as one individual anyway, right? Which is the case for 99% of enterprise code bases. And so you get these sort of behaviors that you can't understand or can't anticipate very easily. And so, yeah, it's that same sort of idea of like, how do you move up one layer of understanding? How do you sort of understand the topology of the code and the risks? And again, like, it sounds like their approach is really similar to a lot of the stuff that we've been doing and that you guys have been doing and talking about, which is just around like, yeah, actually, a lot of forensic exploration, picking bits apart and then slowly working out which bits can be moved safely. And again, anyone who thinks that this announcement is just like, okay, great, just point Claude Code like in a Ralph loop and just get going is like going to cause some damage pretty quickly. But again, these tools used correctly can be transformational over time, and those small increments, they add up much more quickly than trying to do everything in one shot. So yeah, like for me, I think it's again another reminder that it's like these best practices, they've never been more important. Like we should be thinking more and more about them and how we understand the code that's generated, whether it's generated by human or AI.
I think just to build on what you said, Ben, I think there's something that you said that I feel has not been given enough importance. Is it is still the human and machine combination that produces the best results, right? Like, yeah, so generative AI is a better machine or a better tool in that context, but it's still the combination of human and machines that produces that 10x, 100x improvement in results that we are looking for to make this sort of space of like mainframe modernization a better pill to swallow, right? Neither one can do it successfully without the other, right? So so I feel a lot of the marketing or internet material is about like, oh, this is what the foundational model can do, and that's great, right? A better tooling will improve the overall quality of service, but I think it creates a connotation in some people's head that, oh, just the tooling is enough, and that's nowhere close to true, at least today.
Interesting.
Totally.
I had a question on this to get your opinion. Like, I don't know if they talk much about the technique, but it sounds like they say Cloud Code can help with some of these things. So it's basically using Cloud Code plus whatever the foundational model can do. And like you said, the foundation model's capability is improving over time, so it does get better. But you guys have been building something around that for the stuff that we've been doing in our legacy modernization. To the extent that you can talk about that, I'm keen to get your thoughts on, like, you've done something else. Like, where did you see the needs to complement what just the foundational model could do? Like, can you cover that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I guess what we've been doing for the past now 2 years is building an accelerator within ThoughtWorks that helps us map and understand large legacy code bases. Pretty much similar what the article hints towards. Leveraging technologies such as language parsers, static analysis of the code, scheduler analysis in the case of mainframe, pulling all of the data that we can get and basically give that data to LLMs as a map of what the code base looks like, right? A lot of these techniques are actually not even AI based, right? They are techniques that come from stuff that's really good at what it does, that's 100% reliable at what it does, and AI built on top of that to leverage those technologies, right? So although the article might look like it's about replacing technologies, just use this tool for everything, right? It's your silver bullet. It's actually not really that. And we've been doing this for 2 years, so we have seen models getting better, but we've also seen that they are better when they've got a good map under the hood. Yeah, so that's kind of like what we've been using. And actually, with me reading this article, when they talk about Cloud Code and the tool, I actually do agree that yes, you can use these tools, but they don't mention about the entire of the ecosystem that sits around those tools and how further you can get by using those tools. You can use, nowadays Cloud Code, for example, uses LSPs to navigate and navigate the language, right? Before it couldn't do that, but then they realized, we could use LSPs to better navigate and again provide those capabilities to the LLM and agent to navigate the code as we do humans on the IDEs, right? So
I've been waiting for that for so long. It's so good.
The ecosystem surrounding these agents is really powerful, but it's not there, right? It's not there in the article, so it makes us think that it's as simple as just prompting.
Yeah,
Right.
I think like I've seen more of that, like where actually, with these tools now, it's even easier to write your own linters and LSPs and start giving those feedbacks and pointing these things in the right direction. So like, again, I think people have talked about this. Birgitta's been talking about it as well. It's like this harness idea, harness engineering, and again, you're just like taking it one step further than like Markdown and just saying like what good actually looks like and then sort of trying to find that, right? So it's these deterministic tools that can really speed things up, right? Because they can run faster, cheaper, more frequently, and then you've got the brain that kind of can get better information and make better decisions because you've got all those things. So it's around like using the correct LSPs and configuring them to the sort of level of strictness that you like, and getting them to point in the right direction, all that sort of stuff. I don't know. Yeah, for me, I'm like, that's where you start to see that like exponential increase in quality, because you're basically going, okay, cool. Now, rather than like trying to avoid this problem, can I just like create something that stops this problem from happening again, not just for me, but for anyone else who's on the code base and any agent on the code base, and highlights that problem. And you can have those like debates around like, do we think this way is better or not? And as soon as you're actually getting down to like that exact specification of what it looks like, the executable specification, a test, it becomes really clear whether you agree whether that is good practice or bad practice. And how, like if you find examples where actually it's justified, you're like, okay, cool, like this isn't a blanket rule, but it needs more subtlety, and you build up those rules for the code base over time, I find. And that's like something that's like presumably you guys are doing a lot of when you're doing this sort of stuff, tests first and like making sure that you're like, okay, cool, we found this behavior, let's make sure that it works and lock it down, if it isn't tested already. and then now we can move safely within that sort of area.
I think again, as I said last time, there's something that you've said, right? I guess what we've learned is LLMs are great, inference is very powerful, but there's more engineering rigor required around them to get to the enterprise production outputs that you want, right? And so like maybe 2 or 3 things to mention that you sort of regularly hit, irrespective of the problem space, are like providing appropriate context, reducing hallucinations, reducing token usage, right? Like this, we were talking about COBOL mainframes. These are very large scale, right? Like 10 million, 50 million lines of code. And so I think what we have been learning constantly and doing is making sure we can get the best out of LLMs in terms of their inference, but putting engineering rigor around them so that we can ground them better, reduce their hallucinations, make sure we provide appropriate context. Yes, context windows are increasing, but it also has an impact on the quality of the results when you use really large context. So we actually try to sort of reduce the context we provide and try to provide in more accurate context for better results, right? Like, so I think that engineering rigor is required to produce more reliable results, especially in sort of in production context, right? A lot of the demonstrations and examples out there in the world are like POC, hello world type things, right? Where it's almost easy to sort of feel, oh yeah, okay, this has become a solved problem. But it's when you jump to the next scale that you start hitting these problems for real, and that's when you need that engineering rigor. I think I've said it right.
This feels very, serendipitous. So some discussions Ben and I have been having this week, different contexts, but like this idea of using the time that we gain by using AI as a productivity tool to invest back into this quality, this hardness, like putting these controls around and the engineering rigor for that. Because the other way you can look at it, if you don't do that and you just keep plowing ahead, like the coding agents will keep writing code. You're writing legacy code much faster, right? Like we're building the next legacy that's like even harder to understand than these really old COBOL systems. So it's very important, I guess, for us all as engineers to stay on top of that, to not allow ourselves to just be lured by like, oh yeah, I'll just do the next thing. Just keep adding features. Like technical debt, I think, accumulates much faster if we're not building these practices into our new ways of working. And yeah, we've been having a lot of this discussion internally. Like I think as a field, we're all trying to learn how to navigate, how do we bring this rigor back into this new world of agents doing a bunch of work on our behalf. And yeah, in a way, it feels like, oh, we need to discover new things, but in the other way, we're rediscovering things that we learned way back, like when we talk about agile engineering way back at extreme programming 20, 25 years ago.
Yeah, we always had the principle, leave it better than you found it, right? Like that was our principle working on systems. And I guess it becomes odd. Like I've always noticed in teams, right? Like if like the pair that works on it has to make it better, right? Like that's the sort of ownership model there. And then if you find enough times that it's somebody else's work that you have to clean up, you sort of get annoyed. And I guess I draw a connotation here because now the agent is doing some sort of that messiness and you're having to think about sort of cleaning it up.
Yeah. Or like what Ben was talking about, build other AI enabled things to enforce the cleanup as part of the workflow.
Yeah, that's it. And it's like it's that tidy first, obviously the Quebec piece. It's also like, yeah, like you're solving things in a scalable way, right? Like if you find these problems, then you go and, you shouldn't just be solving it for you as an engineer. You should be solving it for the team and ideally maybe even the company, right? Because otherwise someone else is going to fall over that thing. Maybe not tomorrow, maybe not in a week, but in 6 months, maybe they're going to make the same mistake. So yeah. And like, I found it like super effective. I really want to do this like benchmark of like how different. There was this week, again, we didn't cover it earlier, but there was about the how much you should just delete all your Claude.md files because they're polluting the context, and you do much better if you just run it a couple of times and go from there. And I'm like, I want to do this, but with like tests. Like literally, like, so we jumped on a new code base, and they were using Poetry with Python package manager, which was amazing. But UV is now like way faster and better. And so I was just like, right, I want to do the migration. Okay, cool. Like, let's just write an architectural fitness function. Like every mention of Poetry, I want that gone. And then when I'm in Claude Code, I'm not writing like a plan. I'm like, there's a broken test, go fix it. Like literally that. And it's just like, oh, okay, yeah. Well, all these instances of Poetry, and then in the test error, I'm just putting the prompt I want, which is, we don't use Poetry anymore. We should use UV. All of these instances should say UV and work, right? And then it just went and did it. Docker files, Markdown files, like README, as well as like all of the docs, everything. And you're just like, that works really well. Like, why would I do anything else? And like, by the way, now someone else updates a doc and they've, haven't changed it, or like they haven't pulled the most recent piece and they just add another doc that says Poetry, they're going to get a test error that's going to tell the AI what to do. And I'm like, that for me is like context absolutely when you need it. And like, yeah, kind of ideal. Like,
yeah, the error message is the context for the agent to go and fix it. Awesome. We're getting close to time. I had one more question, I guess, for Sean and Alessio, from just as a wrap up, I guess. You tell me, maybe too big of a question, but you mentioned early on, like, it's not just the AI and the stuff, but like there's a lot of other hard things you have to think about when you're doing modernization. Can you maybe talk a little bit about like what are some of these topics that we still need to be thinking about?
Yeah.
No.
So I mean, sorry.
No, go, Sheldon, go. Go.
You guys are both too polite. One of you has to go.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right.
Feel free to go, Sheldon. Yeah. Or otherwise, I'll go. Okay. Well, I think there is a lot of things that need to be thought about, because it's like, actually the article does say code modernization, right? Which is an interesting thing, because we were discussing this with Sheldon earlier this morning. We usually in the industry talk about application modernization, right? We talk about like not just the code itself, because when we think about an IT system, it's not just the code, right? It's code is just, we say it's code and data. I'd argue that code is data as well. But it's data, it's the people using the system, it's the processes that are outside of the system, right? Like the processes that are just built in people's heads or documents, whatever, that dictate how people should use these systems. Then they're not rules embedded into systems code themselves. And then you have dependencies, contracts with other external boundaries outside of your system. You need to account, when you do modernization, you need to account for all of these things. It's not just the code. And so as you do that planning is an art by itself. I love the planning concept, because you need to compete. You typically have many stakeholders with many different competing priorities. And you need to try and find a way to reconcile those priorities into a plan that actually delivers the benefits that they're looking for. So there is that. There is the planning. There is the delivery of incremental modernization. So integrations, data migration, data synchronization, leveraging seams so that you don't change your legacy code. Like, I could go on the whole day, and I'm sure we have only 1 minute left. But there is a lot more that just goes beyond code that one needs to keep account of to execute successfully modernization. And the good thing is we've been doing this in the industry for decades, right?
Yeah.
Not just for me.
If I can emphasize on one thing, right? Like if you just take that article, for example, it shows I think there's a playbook attached to it, and it shows some COBOL code and some Java code. And that's great, right? Like, but I guess one of the challenges with large scale modernization is to find that small thing that you want to start with, right? Like it's like a whole city and town by itself in terms of that mainframe, right? So like once you find that small thing that you can take an incremental step to modernize, then that sort of thing of like, oh cool, how can we sort of move out from COBOL to Java? But like that finding itself is also part science, part art, and that's actually where we are putting a lot of our effort, right? Like, how do we assist the human to find that first small piece? And then I guess Alessio has talked about a lot more things as well, but I'd say there's a lot of paralysis analysis when you can't find that first thing. And so, like, I guess that's almost the first problem to solve.
Yeah, and I like how you framed to me once, Jordan, the contradiction of modernization. Like, wow, you're trying to achieve two things that actually compete if you only want to do one, right? Can you just brief about that? I think that's a very good insight that we can maybe wrap around.
Yeah, so I think modernization is about faithfulness or of the existing system with intentional changes towards the new system, right? Like, there are two extremes, right? Like, I want to build a new system that's exactly the same as the old system. Well, then how is it a new system, right? Like, and so some people, and then the second part of it is I want to completely reimagine, and I have nothing to do with the old system. I think both those extremes are not real and practical for large organizations. So they almost want to do this movement where, oh, I want a lot of the same behavior, but I want to make these intentional changes to that behavior, right? Like, because this policy is no longer applicable. It was about 20 years ago, or this business process has changed, or the customer interactions. And so modernization is all about balancing those two aspects. Like, what do you want to be faithful about, and what intentional change do you want to introduce in that? And that's how you move from your as is to be.
Awesome. Like, to me, it's how we keep the human in the loop, like that. You cannot mechanistically do just looking at the old code and like bring this new intent of the new things you want to do. And I think that's a good place for us to wrap up like this. Thanks for joining us. This was a very, very good discussion. We'll keep experimenting with guests. If there's more topics on the areas they're interested on, you're always welcome to join us again. But yeah, Ben, any parting thoughts from you?
No, thanks a lot. Great to be here. Sorry I screwed up my background and didn't match the ThoughtWorks background. I'll do that next time when you call me next time.
It's fine. It's fine. No, really good.
worry.
Like, thanks for joining. Yeah, like the only thing when you guys were talking about the thing to attack the legacy modernization, I had this vision of you guys as like the diamond like carving when they need to like find the exact point to hit the diamond and it'll crack into like a perfect, beautiful diamond afterwards, where it's just like a rough sort of thing. I was like, oh, that's really cool, like as an analogy, and you spend a lot of time analyzing where's that first cut going to come from, and yeah, like you kind of that's it's quite interesting that it's like a science, but it's also an art because you've seen some of these things before, and yeah, bringing that human into it. So yeah, really cool.
Excellent. So yeah, thanks. We'll come back next week with more topics.
Bye.
Have a nice day.
Ciao for now.
Yeah.
Bye.